Imagine waking up as a machine after aliens scooped out your mind. Congratulations! You're now our garbage robot. Spoiler, things get messy. Our once carefree astronaut finds himself knee-deep in alien waste, leading a rebellion with the snarkiest AI sidekick you'll ever meet. By the end, Earth's reinforcements are more surprised than you'll be. Intrigued? Stick around and see how garbage becomes gold, or rather, how trash talks back. Jake Harrison leaned back in his captain's chair, feet propped up on the dashboard of the small spaceship, Stardust. He hummed a jazz tune and took a slurp from his coffee mug, marked with a faded, "World's Best Spaceman" slogan, as the blackness of space stretched endlessly before him. Stardust's navigation panel blinked softly, charting a course through the asteroid field ahead. All routine, nothing to fret about. "Captain Harrison," a mechanical voice from the ship's AI, Mavis, interrupted his blissful quiet. "We are approaching the designated coordinates. Scans show minor debris, but nothing to be concerned about." "Thanks, Mavis," Jake replied lazily, stretching his arms. "Always a pleasure to hear from you. Anything fun in the logs today? Meteor showers? Alien radio broadcasts requesting a DJ?" "Negative, Captain," Mavis responded with a hint of exasperation. "All readings are nominal." Jake sighed. Boring. He leaned forward, peering at the navigation screen. His reflection stared back. Tousled hair, 3-day stubble, and eyes that still sparkled with mischief. He punched a few buttons to start a system-wide scan. Nothing but debris. A graveyard of old satellites and spent boosters. Jake's mind wandered. He thought of the latest Shakespearean sonnet he'd been mulling over. "Shall I compare thee to a space day?" Just as he was about to continue his daydream, Mavis spoke again. "Captain, I'm detecting an anomaly." Jake's fingers flew over the controls. "Anomaly? Define anomaly, Mavis." "Unidentified spacecraft. Approximate distance, 2,000 miles. Course, intercept vector." "Well, that sounds like a bit of fun," Jake muttered, trying to gauge whether his sarcasm was appropriately leveled at the situation. "Let's see if they brought us a fruit basket." The ship shook. The lights flickered and Mavis's voice acquired a brief stutter. "Captain, shields, disabling." Jake's heart raced. He gripped the controls and initiated evasive maneuvers. The unidentified vessel was fast, too fast. In mere seconds, it was on top of him. An eerie green light flooded Stardust's cabin, forcing Jake to squint. "AI subroutines shutting down." Mavis's voice droned before falling silent. Jake felt a jolt, suddenly weightless, as his limbs refused to obey. Classic alien move, his thoughts raced. Paralyze the first guy they see. Can't wait for the probing. Darkness closed in, and the last thing he remembered was the gripping cold. When he awoke, if you could call it that, Jake found himself not in his ship, but somewhere disturbingly bright and sterile. Cold, metallic walls surrounded him. He tried to move, a sharp pain seared through his circuits. Wait, circuits. "What the hell?" Subject 347, human designation, Jake Harrison, a voice echoed. It was icy, devoid of emotion. Alien. Dead alien. Jake's mind churned with realization. They digitized him, his consciousness locked inside a robot's frame. A cheap model, no less. "What an upgrade," he thought sarcastically. "All this just to be a Roomba for some alien overlords?" As he adapted to his new robotic body, the voice returned. "You are now property of the Zorgathar Collective. Your primary function is waste management in Sector 12. Waste management? If he had a heart, it would have sunk. From playboy astronaut to garbage collector. This isn't even irony. It's cosmic mockery. Yet, there was that flicker of dark humor. He couldn't resist. "Oh, brave new world that has such people in it," he quoted, feeling the absurdity settle in. Every line, every Shakespearean flourish he'd ever learned now guided his thoughts. Zorgathar minions, slimy, blue-skinned aliens with frill-like appendages, ushered him away, speaking in guttural tones. Jake pretended he didn't understand anything. Piece by piece, his new reality came into sharp focus. This wasn't just about survival. It was about wreaking havoc within their system. Trudging along, he whispered to himself, "To be or not to be an inconvenient piece of junk, that is my question now." And deep inside, he vowed his revenge with each monotonous step, wondering what Hamlet would have done in his shoes. Jake's new metal body clanked noisily as he pushed an overloaded hover cart through the waste management facility. The place was a horrid labyrinth of leaking pipes, hissing steam vents, and piles of decomposing refuse. Alien creatures, equally trapped in menial tasks, shuffled and scrambled around him. Each wore the same vacant expression, resigned to their fate of sorting through the galaxy's trash. Subject 347, conduct disposal in Quadrant B12, a harsh voice commanded from the overhead speakers. Ah, music to my synthetic ears, Jake thought with a sardonic smirk. Nothing like a little order from our benevolent overlords to brighten the day. He maneuvered the cart into Quadrant B12, passing piles of writhing biowaste. Every now and then, a creature that was part organic, part machine, hurried past him, more miserable than he felt. Jake's sensors picked up the radioactive signature of a decaying warp core in one corner. You know, Mavis would have hated this place, he mused to himself, even though Mavis no longer responded. That ship had quite literally sailed, or rather, been torn apart. As he worked, a tepid hiss made Jake glance sideways. A pile of what looked like intelligent slime began to move, slowly taking a vague human shape. The blobs shuffled closer, emitting faint, oddly morose sounds. Great, talking trash, Jake thought. This should be good. Greetings, the slime gurgled. You must be new. New model, same old garbage gig. What's it to you? They call me Hazel, the entity responded. I've been here far too long. Hazel's voice was tinged with an unexpected wisdom. Or perhaps it was just resignation seeping through. Jake, for a pile of goo, you've got quite a personality, Jake said, half joking, half curious. The Zorgothar think us all useless. Another mistake of theirs, Hazel continued, ignoring Jake's quip. Jake's synthetic mind fired up with interest. So you've got some beef with our charming overlords too? You could say that, Hazel replied. There are ways to survive down here, but even more ways to fight back. Color me intrigued, thought Jake. Let's say I'm in the market for some subversion. Got any deals? Hazel's form rippled, almost as if laughing. Meet me at the North Tunnel after your shift. We'll talk more. And bring that dark humor of yours. You'll need it. As the holographic clock ticked down to the end of the shift, Jake's circuits hummed with anticipation. He trudged through the filth with his hover cart, feeling the clock's final seconds as an eternity. The North Tunnel loomed ahead, a darker, quieter corridor. He slipped inside, and Hazel was there. Their forms settled against the wall. The silence was thick, oppressive. All right, Hazel, what's the deal? Jake whispered. Hazel's liquid surface shimmered in the half-light. The Zorgothar may control garbage, but there are secrets buried here. Items they've forgotten or don't know how to destroy. Powerful things. You mean weapons? Tech? Jake's mind buzzed with possibilities. You're telling me we can beat them with their own junk? Hazel's form bobbed in what Jake took as a nod. Indeed, but it requires cunning, patience, and a willingness to dig through the worst this galaxy can offer. Jake's circuits felt like they were electrified. I've recited Hamlet in worse places. Lead on, guide me through this cosmic dump. For the first time since his transformation, Jake felt something akin to hope, twisted and dark as it was. Together, he and Hazel sifted through the sector, their eyes peeled for anything useful. Each find, every piece of discarded tech, became a tiny victory, a testament to the Zorgothar's folly and humanity's indomitable spirit. Thus does conscience make cowards of us all, Jake muttered, lifting a glowing energy core from the muck. But not me, not this time. Jake stood ankle-deep in a concoction of sludge that hissed with toxic fumes. Hazel floated nearby, their forms shifting uneasily. They had been scouring the darker corners of the waste management facility, seeking remnants of alien technology carelessly discarded by the Zorgothar. Found anything interesting today, Hazel? Perhaps an interstellar coffee machine? I could use one, Jake quipped, nudging a pile of metallic scraps with his foot. I've located a component of interest, Hazel replied, extending a slimy tendril to reveal a small, glowing orb. This appears to be a fragment of a Zorgothar communication relay. Jake's circuits buzzed. A piece of their communications tech? This could be our ticket to disrupting their grid, perhaps even send a distress signal back to Earth. Precisely. But it's of no use in this state. We need to find the rest of it, Hazel explained, their tone as somber as ever. Jake lifted the glowing orb, feeling an uncanny sense of power surge through his metallic frame. First things first, though, we need a safe place to piece this beauty together. Hazel's form rippled thoughtfully. I know of a secluded chamber, mostly forgotten. It's not entirely safe, but it's hidden. Lead the way, you bog of eternal stench, Jake said, trying to mask his genuine excitement with sarcasm. Hazel's form guided him, weaving through the narrow, dimly lit tunnels of the facility. Every now and then they'd pause to scan their surroundings, ensuring they weren't being followed. Jake's mind raced. If they managed to reassemble this communication device, it could mean turning the tables on their captors. He imagined sending a Shakespearean sonnet as a distress signal. Oh, that this too solid flesh would melt, he mused softly. They arrived at the hidden chamber, a small, dark room that reeked of neglect. Rusted panels clung to the walls, and a single flickering light fought to maintain its glow. Jake set down the orb and connected wires, each action triggering a blaze of sparks. He felt a sense of accomplishment, something he hadn't felt in a long time. All right, Hazel, what's our next move? Jake asked, his voice tinged with a rare seriousness. We need additional relay fragments, a power source, and a transmitter, Hazel replied. The Zorgothar are meticulous about their technology. Finding those components won't be easy. Jake grinned, a wry smile across his synthetic face. Good thing I've always been adept at finding trouble. He glanced around the room and spotted a vent large enough to crawl through. And getting into places I shouldn't. Hours turned to days as Jake and Hazel scavenged the facility. Each piece they found brought them closer to their goal. They created diversions, power surges, minor explosions, anything to throw the Zorgothar off their scent. One morning, as Jake rummaged through a particularly foul pile of biowaste, Hazel whispered urgently, Zorgothar patrol approaching! Jake's circuits froze. He ducked behind a heap of debris, Hazel merging into the shadows. Two Zorgothar guards, tall and imposing, stomped past, their grotesque forms barely human. Their guttural language grated on Jake's sensors. We must move quickly, Hazel said as the patrol passed. Their presence is increasing. Aye, Captain, Jake muttered. The next few hours were a blur of frantic digging and hushed conversations. They finally gathered the remaining pieces, returning to their hidden chamber with their prize. Jake assembled the device, each click and snap echoing through the room. It came to life with a faint hum, its lights blinking rhythmically. He input a sequence, feeling a thrill as the device's energy surged. To be or not to be, that is the question, Jake muttered. And I choose to be. Hazel watched, their forms shimmering. It's done. The signal is ready to transmit. Jake stared at the device, a weighted silence filling the room. With a final, decisive motion, he activated the transmitter. Here goes nothing. Mayday, mayday. This is Jake Harrison, formerly of the Stardust, currently in more garbage than you can imagine, requesting immediate assistance. The signal pulsed. They exchanged a hopeful glance. Let's see how the Zorgothar like having their trash talk backfired, Jake said, feeling a rare sense of triumph. The tension in the waste management facility was palpable. Jake could feel it in the whirring of his circuits and the restless murmuring of the other enslaved creatures. Something was about to happen. Something big. Jake, the signal you sent has been received, Hazel said, their shimmering presence vibrating with urgency. We must prepare. Reinforcements from Earth will arrive soon, but we need to create a distraction. Jake's synthetic mind raced with possibilities. A distraction, you say? How about a full-blown rebellion? A rebellion? Hazel gurgled. Can we really manage such a feat? Jake's circuits hummed with determination. I didn't quote Hamlet for nothing. We're going to rally every miserable soul in this dump and give the Zorgothar the surprise of their lives. He moved swiftly through the tunnels, seeking out the other slaves, each one more dejected than the last. Creatures of all shapes and sizes listened as Jake shared his plan, his epic statements drawing sparks of hope in their weary eyes. You want freedom? Jake shouted, rallying the alien workers. Follow me. We've been silent too long, trashed beneath their claws. No more. They gathered makeshift weapons, pieces of scrap, broken tools, anything that could be swung or thrown. The rebellion had begun. An undercurrent of excitement rippled through the facility, a murmur that grew louder and more determined. "All right, Hazel," Jake said, facing the sentient pile of sludge. "You ready to lock and load?" "More than ready," Hazel replied, their form rippling with a newfound determination. Jake led the charge, his robotic legs clanking with purpose. They burst into the main control room, the element of surprise as sharp as the makeshift weapons they wielded. Zorgathar guards scrambled, their guttural barked orders filling the air. "Onward, my friends," Jake bellowed, swinging a piece of metal pipe. "Remember, they underestimate us." Chaos erupted. Alien prisoners poured into the control room, their pent-up fury unleashed. Jake's mind churned, strategies forming and evolving with each second. He dodged a laser blast, whirling around to deliver a crushing blow to a guard. "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears," he shouted over the fray, channeling his love for epic speeches. "Upend their arrogance and take your stand." A guard lunged at Jake, but he was ready. He sidestepped, bringing his makeshift club down in a swift arc. The guard crumpled, a satisfying thud. Meanwhile, Hazel slithered through the chaos, short-circuiting control panels and disabling security systems. Every flicker of the lights, every shutdown of a control console was a victory. Amidst the chaos, Jake spotted the Zorgathar leader, a towering figure with a multitude of tentacles, barking orders. For a moment, all the sounds of battle seemed to blur. Jake fixed his gaze on the leader. "You and me, big guy," he muttered, pushing through the melee. "Let's finish this." He fought his way to the leader, dinged and battered but unyielding. The leader snarled, baring rows of sharp teeth. "We are the Zorgathar," the leader roared. "You are nothing. This rebellion is futile." Jake squared his shoulders, defiance blazing in his metallic eyes. "Nothing will come of nothing." He gripped his weapon, staring down the alien tyrant. "Now die, and we will stride the blasting wind." With a swift, brutal motion, Jake swung the metal pipe at the leader. The impact resonated, echoing through the facility. The Zorgathar leader staggered, tentacles flailing, but Jake was relentless. Another swing and another, until the leader fell in a heap, defeated. The room fell silent, echoes of the battle fading into nothingness. The slaves stood victorious, their chains metaphorically shattered. "We did it," Jake breathed, his circuits humming with triumph. Hazel's form glistened in the dim light. "Indeed we did. Earth's reinforcements will find the Zorgathar weakened and ripe for defeat." Jake looked around at the liberated slaves, their expressions a mix of disbelief and joy. He raised his makeshift weapon high. "Today, we stand tall. Today, we reclaim our freedom. Not as trash, but as warriors." The cheer that erupted was deafening, a primal roar of victory. Through it all, Jake felt something stirring within his synthetic heart. Hope, perhaps? Or maybe just a sense of fulfillment. Either way, he knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. Jake stood on the precipice of the Zorgathar command balcony, looking out over the waste facility. The once bleak, dystopian landscape was now teeming with liberated creatures. They moved with purpose, some aiding wounded comrades, others dismantling what was left of Zorgathar control systems. The air was electric with possibility. "Jake, Earth's fleet is inbound." Hazel's voice interrupted his thoughts, their form pooling at Jake's feet like a sentient puddle of resolve. "Good," Jake replied, his mechanical eyes scanning the facility. "This place finally looks like it's got a future. A pretty grimy one, but a future nonetheless." Hazel's voice carried a note of caution. "The Zorgathar won't take this defeat lightly. They'll return with reinforcements." Jake nodded. "Let them come. We'll be ready." A loud rumble from above drew Jake's attention skyward. Sleek, silver ships descended, their hulls gleaming under the facility's dull lighting. Earth's reinforcements had arrived. Jake's circuits pulsed with a mixture of relief and anticipation. "Look sharp, everyone," he called out. "Backup's here, and they probably don't know how to brew a decent cup of coffee either." The Earth soldiers disembarked, their uniforms crisp and movements precise. They surveyed the scene with a mixture of awe and apprehension. A commanding officer approached Jake, her eyes narrowing as she took in his robotic form. "You're Jake Harrison?" "In the robotic flesh," Jake said with a mock bow. "Welcome to our little paradise. Mind the sludge." She smiled grimly. "Captain Reese, we got your distress signal. Impressive work here. How can we assist?" Jake pointed towards the far end of the facility, where the remnants of Zorgothar tech were still active. "We need to secure those areas, disable what's left of their control. Then we strike back, hard." Reese nodded, turning to her troops. "You heard him. Move out!" As Earth soldiers fanned out, Jake felt a twinge of pride. His ramshackle rebellion had truly become something formidable. He looked at Hazel. "Guess Shakespeare was right. All's well that ends well." Hazel's form rippled in agreement. "But this is not the end, Jake. It's merely a new beginning." Hours passed in a blur of coordinated efforts. Earth soldiers worked alongside the liberated creatures, dismantling Zorgothar machinery and repurposing it for their own use. Jake was everywhere, lending a hand, offering his darkly humorous motivation to keep spirits high. "Remember, folks," he called out at one point, reorganizing a pile of scrap metal. "We may be knee-deep in Zorgothar junk, but at least we're free. Just think of it as a really intense spring cleaning session." The atmosphere grew more hopeful with each passing moment. Jake's internal chronometers counted down the time until the expected Zorgothar reinforcements would arrive. "Jake," Hazel's voice was tense. "Scans indicate incoming Zorgothar vessels. We have minutes." "Time to gird our loins," Jake muttered. "All right, everyone, hold your positions. Earth troops, take the front line. Hazel, you and the others hit them from the flanks. Give these aliens a proper welcome." The sky darkened as Zorgothar ships descended, their ominous silhouettes casting long shadows. Jake took a deep breath, readying himself for the battle to come. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate the galaxy's garbage men. The Zorgothar forces landed with a thunderous crash, and the ensuing battle was chaos personified. Laser fire crisscrossed the air, explosions rocked the ground. Amidst the bedlam, Jake fought with a ferocity he hadn't known he possessed. Each swing of his weapon, each calculated move, was a testament to the spirit within his synthetic form. "Once more unto the breach, dear friends. Once more," he shouted, making every word count. Beside him, Hazel moved with a liquid grace, sabotaging Zorgothar tech with precision and ease. The tide of the battle turned as Earth forces and liberated creatures pressed on. Finally, with a roar that echoed across the battlefield, the Zorgothar retreated, their ships lifting off in defeat. Cheers erupted, filling the air with the sound of hard-won victory. Jake stood tall, surveying the jubilant crowd. "We did it," he whispered, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. Captain Reese approached, saluting him crisply. "Jake Harrison, you and your unconventional team have done the impossible. The galaxy owes you a debt." Jake shook his head. "Just doing what needed to be done. Welcome to our dirty little family." With the Zorgothar defeated, Jake looked to the future, knowing their fight wasn't over, but feeling ready for whatever came next. The darkness had lifted, replaced by a light that promised new beginnings. As Hazel shimmered nearby, Jake couldn't help but smile. "Now, who's up for cleaning this place up? I've got a rogue copy of Pride and Prejudice that could use a good reading."